Okay, in this question we have got some logarithms to base 4, we've got a graph to sketch and then solving an equation. First of all, if we look at our graph then, we want to sketch y equals 4 to the power of x. And what's really important when we sketch a graph is that we include points where it crosses the axes, the general shape, and also any asymptotes. Let's have a look first then and think, what about when x equals 0? Because when x equals 0, that tells us where we cross the y-axis. So let's have a look in a different colour. When x equals 0, y equals 4 to the power of 0. Any number to the power of 0 we know has to be 1. So we have this coordinate 0, 1. Let's mark that on our graph. That's where we cross the y-axis. Well, on the other hand, let's think about what happens. Let's try if y was 0. So y equals 0, and that means 4 to the power of x is 0. Well, if we think about that, no matter how many times we multiply 4 by itself, it's just never going to go to 0, is it? No matter what we choose. And actually, this only happens as x tends to minus infinity. Because we would need for this to happen, it to be 1 over a really, really big number to get close to 0. It's just not going to happen on our graph. This is actually a place where we see some asymptotic behaviour for our graph. As x gets really, really negative towards minus infinity, it tends towards y equals 0. So we could even put on here, this is an asymptote. And our asymptote is y equals 0. Thinking about the other side of our graph then, well, what happens when x gets really large? As x gets bigger, 4 to the power of a big number becomes uncontrollably large pretty quickly. It gets really, really big. So we can see our graph is going to spiral out of control up like this. Key points for us then are that we've got our 1 on the y-axis. We can include the asymptote. It never crosses y equals 0, but also it gets really large as x grows larger and positive. Okay, moving on to this then. Solve 4 to the x equals 100. This is clearly where we have to use logs, and it's got to be base 4. If we know two things are equal, we can say the logarithm of both sides is also equal. So let's write that below. We've got log base 4, or you could choose any base, but 4 is the best one to use here because we've got 4. Log 4 of 4 to the x equals log base 4 of 100. This is why we should choose log to base 4, of course, because log 4 of 4 to the power of x is just x. That's how we remove exponentials or logarithms from our equation. We just take the inverse. And over here, log 4 of 100, well, we just have to put this into our calculator, and the answer we get when we do that to 2 decimal places should be 3.32. That's 2 decimal places. Okay, so there's the 2 parts of our question.